Okay, Gavaldik. So that was the last story we learned about Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yuma, was Rabbi Yosef Farchamo, he used to chap avodim of his debtors, of his loivas, and he used to use them. And his son told him that it's not appropriate because it's mechsekaribis. Oh, thank you very much. Zok the Heilige Gemara on the Afsamach Chayam Aleph, 6 lines from the top. Amar Baya, Hi man, the Masik Zuzi the Ribsa Bechavre. Somebody owes his friend. I think Masik means to owe. Does it mean to owe? Does it mean that you're owed? Oh, so you're owed. The Lechiti Ba'arba Geryuye Bezuza Beshuka. The going rate of chitin are 4 measures. Gears a measure for a zuz. That's what they're going for initial. V'yoyev lo'iu chamisha, and the loiva gave him 5. So he owes him a zuz, and now he gave him more than a zuz worth of chitin. So yeah, that's ribis, and therefore it has to be returned. So kimafkinan minei. So the Gemara is making an assumption that it was ribis ktsutza, and that ribis ktsutza Yosy b'dayanim, meaning you could force the malva to pay it back, which means we're going according to Rabbi Eliezer, and I believe we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. We're going to see at the end of the sugya that we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer, and this is actually following the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer that you actually have to give back ribis, and it's enforceable in a bezdin. Mafkinim idich. When you sorry. You only have to give back 4 because 4 was the ribis. The extra 1 wasn't out ribis. That was just out giving a bonus over and above the zuz, and therefore that the malva can hold on to.
I didn't understand the story.
Someone, a malva was owed 1 zuz by a loiva. Instead of the loiva giving him cash, the loiva gave him 5 measures of chitin. When really it's only 4 measures of chitin that is worth a zuz, and he gave him 5.
It's ribis. Paying back ribis, right?
Right. So the problem is the zuz. The problem is not that he's giving back 5 for the price of 4. I'm allowed to sell you 5 for the price of 4. The problem is that you're giving the 4. So therefore, Abaye said that 5th is not ribis. The Rav Amar Chamishim Afkinim Minei. Fakert, he's got to give everything back. The Meikara B'Tayras Rabisa Asay Liadi. At the end of the day, even the 5th one is given b'mokim dat zuz. So that was given B'Tayras Rabis. V'Yamar Abaye Hayman the Masak Arbosus the Rabisa v'Chavrei V'Yoiv LeGlima B'Gavayu. And he gives him a beged. So so he gave him the money, and he gave him a beged as well. So when you make the malva pay back, arba mafkina, but glima aloy mafkina. He doesn't have to give back the beged. Rav Amar glima mafkina, he also has to give back the beged. My timer, he heichid leimru glima de michse v'koi glima de rabisahu. Because otherwise, people are still going to think it was ribis, because they saw it being given over during that same transaction, and they're going to say that this fellow is walking around with a beged of ribis.
Isn't this the same exact thing as before?
No.
Here that encompasses the loan also, right?
Well, here's the 2 separate things that I'm giving him. I'm giving him the money that I owe, and I'm giving a beged with it.
Yeah, giving him the money, the ribis, plus extra zuz.
Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. No, here what happened is he gave him the beged instead of that zuz. That's what it is. He gave him the beged instead of the zuz. So the question is, does he have to pay back the actual beged, or can I just pay back the value of the beged? So he owes me a zuz of ribis, and I didn't give him the cash. I gave it to him in product. You gave him a beged. So Rava says you have to give back the beged. It's not enough that I should pay for it. But you could say instead of the malva giving back the beged, let the malva just pay for the beged, give back a zuz. So that Rava says you can't do that because the people will always say it's klima deribisa.
By both the this that was owed was not really owed. It was only the ribbis part.
Yeah, we're talking about the ribbis part only. We're not talking about the loan itself. Does that Shema the article?
Yeah, it does, but I don't understand why what's the difference? Like he's asking. I thought it was the Blima was both the
Karen and the
interest.
no, I gave the lawyer gave the beged for ribbis. So do you say that the malva just has to give back a zuz? Or did he have to give back the actual thing that was given to him as ribbis? That is the machloek. Abai says, no, as long as you refund the money. So it's like you bought a beged from him. Rav says, no, you can't even keep that sale.
In the first case, in this case, you can't split it up.
Right.
Over there, you were able to split it up.
That's right. That's right. Omarava. Hi man, the Masik Tracer Zuzi the Rabisa Bechavri. Somebody is owed 12 Zuzim of ribbis. And what did he do? V'ager lechatzer the miskara basara. V'ager nela betracer. I said I have a chotzer. My chotzer I have an Airbnb, and it's $12 a night. So how about you could stay in my Airbnb, and that'll be the ribbis. However, it really on the market, if you look it up on the website Airbnb, he only charges $10 a night. But he said for you because you're so special, I'm going to charge you $12 a night, and then that'll be the ribbis payback. So kimafkinimine. So now we forced the malva to pay for his night stay at the B&B. Tracer mafkinimine. He has to pay back 12. Omaler of Achmed Ifti Lerina, I don't understand. Let the malva say, V'lei malei ki agra. You know, ki agra hachi. Normally, I would never pay $12. I'm looking for a discount. I'm not looking to pay more. I never would pay $12 for a room that's advertised on Airbnb for $10. But I paid it because the way I look at it is like I had a gift certificate. You know, when you have a gift certificate, you buy things that you don't need. You don't care so much to buy it on sale. So why did I spend 12? I had extra money anyway. In other words, there was ribbis coming to me, so I'm going to take whatever I can get. But but now that you're forcing me to pay back the ribbis, so now this $10 is coming out of my own pocket. I don't want to pay 12. I want to pay the going rate. I want to get it all back. Zok to Gemara, that doesn't work because Mishum the Amalei Savas Bekavlas. The Levit can say, sorry, you accepted this night's hotel stay as a $12 value. So too bad, you got to pay me $12. So now not only didn't he get his ribbis, it's costing him that $12. There's nothing worse than staying in a hotel for $150 a night, and you find out that the other guy got an upgraded room when he's paying $50 a night because he was on the better website. Okay, so again, these are all illustrations of how you're not even allowed to do things that look like ribbis, right? You're not even allowed to keep a beged, even though you're paying for it. But it looks like ribbis. Marbin al aschar, vein marbin al hamecher. A rental, you're allowed to overpay, but you're not allowed to overpay for something that you buy. And the Gemara is going to explain. So marbin al aschar, v'schar ham tonas mois haschirus. So if I was renting you something and I'm not making you pay up front, I'll let you pay later than you really have to pay, I'm allowed to charge more for that. But if I sell you something and I want to charge you more for paying later, that I would not be allowed to do.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry? What do you mean by I know? I know on a rental, if I overcharge for rental? Would there be? Is there a din I know on a rental? I'm not sure. It all depends on if it's a commodity that's quantifiable. This is actually we discussed yesterday.
They just have the whole issue in Hermes. You know, if you pay cash, you get a 5% discount.
Over what?
Credit card.
That's because that has nothing to do with ribbis. That's because they have to pay the credit card processor.
Right, that's why they did it. Someone came to them and said that service because the credit card they took a loan because they don't get it until the next day. It go automatically or something. They're getting extra.
But if they're charging extra because you're paying early, it's fine, but not charging because you're paying early. They're charging you extra because it costs the money.
No, they're not charging you extra, they're giving you a discount.
So we're soon going to see. We discussed this yesterday. Aviga brought it up, and he discussed a lot of realtors, a lot of vendors. They'll say, "Listen, if you pay me in advance, I'll give it to you for cheaper." Is that a problem? So that's exactly what we're going to learn today. That it's not a problem. A discount for early payment is allowed. An excess charge for late payment is not allowed. So it's all as to how it's advertised and packaged. What? But it's semantics that's real. So Zok Gemara. This is going to come out today. This is a very important Gemara because we discussed it with the Vigor yesterday, and we were clearing is it ribbis, is not ribbis. The Mishnah and the Gemara discusses specifically this shaila, and it's a lot about semantics, like Maki says, because in fact, how you present the deal will make a difference between whether it's mutar or usr. So let's see what it says. Marbin al aschar, vein marbin al mecher. You're allowed to charge extra for early payment of a rental, but not early payment of a sale. Ketzad. Hisker lo yaschatzeirei. I'm renting you my chutzner. V'amaloi. And he told the renter, if you're going to pay me, let's say we make up that it's going to be $1,000 for the month. If you pay me right now at the beginning of the month, this was a year rental. If you're going to pay rent for the full year up front, it's $100,000 for the year. But if you want to pay monthly, then it's sela l'chodesh. Then it's $10,000 a month, which will be $120,000 a year. Mutter, that's going to be mutter. So here you see there's a direct benefit to the renter by prepaying, and he's saving himself 20%. That's allowed. But if he sold his field, and he told the buyer, if you pay me right now at the closing of the sale, then I'll only charge you 1,000 zuz. But if you only want to pay me in 6 months, when you're going to get cash because you're going to be able to sell your product from the goyrin, then Mishneim Osir Mona, I'm charging you an extra 20%. Also, that will be Osir. So this is two cases that are side by side. One's a rental, one's a sale, and we have to understand why should there be a difference. Zok Tehela Gemara.
Sale, they would say, give it to me from, I'll give it to you for cheaper.
And that's what the Gemara is going to discuss. So, Ma'ishno Reisha, U'Ma'ishno Seif. First of all, what's the difference between schirus and sale? Zok Gemara, Rabbi Rabbi Yosef, Damri Tarbaya. Both Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef explained as follows: schirus eine mishtalames ela lebesoif. The halach is, in a normal case of schirus, rent becomes payable normally at the end of the period of time that the rental was for. V'hai, and this, even the here, technically, in a rental, he doesn't owe me the money at the beginning of the rental. He really only owes me the money at the end of the rental. And I'm giving him a discount for prepayment. So therefore, lav agar noterle. This is not paying for the fact that I'm using your money, because I'm not using your money. I don't owe you the money until the end of the rental. I'm paying it up early. So I'm not paying you any extra because you're giving me your money to hold on to use until I have it. Rather to the contrary, I'm paying before it's due. So therefore, mishvahu dahachi shavya. This is what it must be worth. In other words, the full price, the $10,000 per month rent is what it's worth, and I'm not paying more by paying $10,000 a month. That I'm allowing you to pay me less if you prepay, that's uzule hude kamoizel gabe. So this is not an extra charge for the use of my money. This is a discount for prepayment. Exactly like Moti described it earlier. But seifa, when you're doing a sale, even the zvinininu, uboy lemishkal dome me achsho. When you do a sale, normally when we transfer the goods, when we transfer the property, at that moment, the payment becomes payable. I'm now extending the terms. That's clearly charging more by extending you the credit to be able to pay me later. So this changes the whole picture because a discount for prepayment is 100% mutter. The whole problem is only an extra charge for late payment. So if a guy tells you that if you pay me if you pay me within 10 days, I'll give you a 2% discount, that's not a problem at all. But if all accounts over 30 days are charged 2% per month, so then that's outright ribbons. Omarava.
I don't think it's out is the renters do the first one and the last, right?
Omarava. Doku bo rabbanon b'hamilsa. Could be. Omarava. Doku bo rabbanon b'hamilsa. The rabbanon were medayik in this inyan. V'ukma, and they even brought a pasuk to support this for it. Because it says in the pasuk, Keschir shana b'shana, you went year by year. What do we learn from there? That schir shel shana zu eina mishalemes ela b'shana acheres. The payment for this year is due next year. In other words, at the end of the rental term, that's when the chiyuv to pay triggers. The im legoyin b'shtei masar mana aser. The Mishnah says that if I sold something, if I sold a property, and I give you time to sell the Shasa Gorin where people have cash, then it will be usher to do because there's an extra charge for the delay of payment. Amar Rab Nachman, Tarsha Shari. What is Tarsha? This is going to be very nuanced. Tarsha Shari Zakrashi, Limker Schoira Bamtana B'Yosy Midamel. I'm going to be selling you product. I'm selling you a big tractor trailer full of socks. If you pay me now, it's going to be $1,000. But if you pay me later, it's going to be you're going to pay me $1,200. But it's not like that's how the transaction went down. All I said is my payment terms are 6 months, and this is the price. So we never talked about paying early, paying late. We just said my payment terms are 6 months, and in 6 months, you're going to owe me $100,000. And built into that is an extra charge because I'm financing it for 6 months. It's like sometimes you buy a product, don't pay for 6 months. Don't pay until 2026. And people who are stupid enough to believe that's what's happening is not a strike. It just means that they're getting a loan and it's built into the price of the product, right? So Zok Rashi, and this is the very important key point, Uvilvad shaloy yefarish loy im ma'achshav harei lach b'pachos. I can say the price of the goods is 120,000, payable in 6 months. That you could say, but you're not allowed to say no. The price of the goods is $80,000 payable now. If you want to pay in 6 months, it's going to be $100,000. That you're not allowed to do. Just say payment is due on day X, and the payment is this price. That would be allowed. That's what Rab Nachman said. How could you say that's mutter? The Mishnah says is also. Amar Lei, Rab Nachman answered, there's a very big difference. In the Mishnah, Hasam Kotzle. In the Mishnah, you said specifically, if you pay now, it's cheaper. If you pay later, it's more. So you're speaking out, articulating that there's a charge here for the Aganatale. But Hakale Kotzle, if you just give him one price and you tell him when the payment is due, that's not called itemizing and detailing ribbis. And that would be mutter, Zok Rab Nachman. Amar Papa, Tarsha de Di Shari. I don't know if Rab Nachman's thing is mutter, but my Tarsha is for sure mutter. And we're going to soon see that maybe Rab Papa's Tarsha was worse. So Rab Papa's Tarsha is mutter. What did Rab Papa do? Zok Rashi, Rab Papa used to make shecher tamarim. He was a manufacturer of beer made out of dates. Umoicheloi bizman hazoil b'tishrei. Normally beer, if you buy it in Tishrei, is cheaper, but he would sell it in Tishrei, but he would charge the higher price, the price that you would normally pay for it, kishar shal nissen, but umamtin loidus. So he would sell it in Tishrei for a higher price than it would normally be worth now, but he would also let them pay in nissen. Zokar, but that would be allowed. Why? Because Rav Papa was very wealthy. So Zokar, Rav Papa Tarsha di Shari. Why? My time, shechroi loy posit. My shecher won't go bad. So you're not doing me a favor by buying it from me now. I'm not, as a malva, I'm not benefiting anything from you buying it now. I could just leave it in my warehouse and I could sell it on this. I don't need you. Maybe because I want the cash up front. Maybe that's why I'm doing it now. Zuzi loy tzarichna. I'm a very rich man, Dr. Papa. I don't need the money. I know who the karvidno milsa gabalakech. I'm just trying to do the lakech a favor. I'm just trying to help him acquire the beer that he wants. So I'm doing him a favor. I'm not doing this for business. I'm not doing it for benefit. I'm just doing it to help the lakech. Therefore, that shouldn't be considered. That shouldn't be considered ribbis. So here, what this is, if you think about it, from the moiker's perspective, it was not ribbis. From the malva's perspective, it wasn't ribbis. He wasn't looking to benefit anything at all. He was just trying to help his customer. But from the lakech's perspective, it's very much ribbis. I'm paying a higher price so that I can hold on to your money. So that's what the Gemara's kashes. I don't understand. Who said you look at this whole transaction from your perspective? And yes, in your perspective, there's no benefit. Zil Bosser did too, but look at the Loivis perspective. The Ilu Havalu Zuzi, if they had cash for now, have a shakli kahashta, they would have bought for the lower price right now and paid for it now. Hashta the less Zuzi, shakli to Yukr Kidlakamei. Since they don't have money, they're willing to pay more. From their perspective, it surely would be ribbis. So Rashi Zil Bosser to do. Yeah, but he doesn't. I'm not really putting more money into my pocket because I would make the more money anyway. I would just keep it in my warehouse for 6 months. It doesn't go bad. I can make more money. So I'm not looking to do this so I should make more money. I'll put it in my warehouse. I have plenty of room. Zilbas to do achrei lakuchos. Let me just finish Rashi. Achrei lakuchos. The inu vadai agar not to yavel. They're for sure willing to pay extra because they don't have to pay it till later. Because if they had money, for sure. They could buy it anywhere if they're going to pay for it now.
Why if why is he giving them a discount for now?
Because he's trying to help them out. He wants to give them an opportunity to buy that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Then why is he taking now cheaper if it's no benefit for them?
He's not taking now cheaper. He's taking now more. He's taking now more because I really want to hold my schoida until Tishrei. I want to make the investment. I'll hold on to it and I'll sell it to Nisan. That's what I want to do. Fine. I'll let you buy it now, but you still have to pay what I would normally have sold it. So I'm not looking for.
If they're going to pay now, then they're not going to get it cheaper.
They will get it cheaper.
Why?
They bought it from someone else.
Because they wouldn't buy from him, they would buy from somebody else. I wouldn't sell it now. I wouldn't, but for mine, it's not for sale now. If you want it for sale, you got to pay me what I would want to get for it later. Zok to Gemara weiter. Zok to Gemara weiter. Amar Reb Chama. So Reb Chama says, Tarsha, the divadi shori. For sure, my Tarsha, my payment terms is allowed.
Tarsha is pragmatic, no? It's not.
Tarsha, I don't know what the Tarsha. What is the actual Tarsha? What? But whatever it is, it's clearly payment terms, right? So let's see what Rav Huna said. Reb Chaim is a Tarshti Vali Shari Moicher Pragmatya. He sold Shroida. Moicher b'Makai Mazoil Kishar Shunimkar b'Makai Mayoiker. He would sell it in a jurisdiction where it was much cheaper for the same price that it would be sold in the higher jurisdiction. But look at what he did. This is a little bit of a complicated arrangement. Zok Rashi umamdin lahem vein mailen oisai l'Makai Mayoiker. You know what he would do? He would sell the goods in Toronto. The goods in Toronto, let's say, cost $100,000. But these same goods, if they're transported to New York and sold there, they would be $150,000. So what he would do is he would give merchants all these goods, and he wouldn't charge them. He would give it to them on credit, and they would sell it for $150,000 in New York. What was in it for them? So let's see what's going on over here. Up until the point that these people sell the goods in New York, they're my goods. I'm retaining the goods, and if anything happens to them, it's my problem. So clearly the sale did not occur when I gave him the goods. So there's no credit yet extended. Right now, technically, they're working for me. We have to look at what they're doing, what I'm paying them. I got to be paying them for their work. So let's see the rest of the deal. What they do is they take my goods worth 100,000 that belong to me. They sell it on my behalf for $150,000. Now they have cash that's my cash that they have to return to me. But what happens is in New York, I let them use that cash to buy other products with that they can then sell. So I let them make money off my money so that they could also make money, and then they'll pay me back later. So the loan is the moment they sell my goods, now the money is theirs. That's a loan. What? No, everything. You can use all that money to make money off as long as you come back and bring me back my 150.
Charging extra.
So let's have a look. Right now, right off the bat, what he's charging extra is because of this loan, you're schlepping all my stuff and selling it for me. So that's a big ribbis, right? I would have to pay somebody to schlep all my goods to New York, to sell it, to collect, right? And all that service so far is unpaid. But I'm letting you do this. Why? Because you're doing. Why are you doing it? Because then you get cash. So mistakrin and then once they have the money and they're using it, of course now it's on them. Now they're a regular loiva. Since they are not makabel achrayis for my schor until they sell it, loy have a milva gabayu acha prakmatya nimkeres ben makabel and until they sell in New York, it's not a milva; it's still a pekod. But oisa mois nasna le milva. They only become a loiva when they get the money in New York after selling the product. So therefore, for ein kan ribis, there is no ribis. So Rabbi Chamatash is valley. Sorry, my time in Nichale the lake b'shusi the kalhecha the kaazli. Shafkilu milksa v'nakadlu shuka. There's another issue over here. The other problem is, what about, and this is what Tosfos brings up, what about the problem is that they're doing all this work for me for free on behalf of the fact that I'm lending them my money. Zok to Gemara, that's not a problem either. The chalhecha the kaazli shafkilu milksa v'nakadlu shuka. Who is talking over here? It was Rab. Who was this again? It was Rab Chama. Rab Chama was a Godel Hador. Rab Chama was a big Rav. Because of that, he was exempt from paying taxes. And whenever he brought his goods to market, the market would close down. Let's say he was selling shoes. No one's allowed to sell shoes for the next 6 hours until all of Rab Chama's schoyer gets sold. So he had tremendous protection and an advantage in his product. So what happened is he says, they said, whatever we buy with your money, we're going to be extended the same courtesy as Reb Chama. It looks like we're representing Reb Chama. So yes, we did a lot of work on behalf of Reb Chama, but we're getting paid back very well because we're getting the advantage that whatever we do is tax-free, and we're getting an advantage in the shuk. They shut the shuk down while we sell. That's what we're doing to pay him. That's what we're getting as payment for doing the work for him. But the loan is interest-free. And so that's for sure allowed.
And because they're his agent and the money becomes only his when they're in New York, so that's called because of that.
The money becomes the loives when they get to New York, when they sell in New York. Right. The schoyer that Reb Chama sent them with schoyer. That schoyer was Reb Chama's until it was sold. And then it becomes money. Now, at that time, the money is a loan to the loiva.
But it turns into money when it's worth 150.
Well, it's sold for 100. The scholar is sold for 150.
That's why it's not ribs, because it's his thing that.
Right, that part's not ribs. That part's not ribs. Right, that part's not ribs. And the fact that they're doing work for me on behalf of this loan is not ribs either, because the work that they're doing for me, they're getting paid back because they have an advantage in the shuk. So it's funny. I'm not sure how this tells a choice, because it's a little bit of a scam. Now that it's our business and we just have borrowed money from Chama, why do we get extended all these courtesies? Why do we get out of tax? I guess they're doing it in his name. I mean, technically, they should say that now we should have to pay tax. We're not Reb Chama. This is for our own interests. So I'm not sure how that works. But don't tell anybody, otherwise it's going to blow their cover. Defending their account. Very good. Zok to Gemara. The Hilchasa. The halacha is Reb Chama. So the Reb Chama that we just learned, that type of tarsha is allowed. The Hilchasa Reb Elazar. The Ribbis Ksutza Yotze B'Dayanim. The Hilchasa Reb Yanai Mali Ein Mali Demeyan, which means you can pay cash for products even though the vendor doesn't have it, as long as it's the Yosy Shuk, and you could buy product with a loan. Gewaltig. And Tosha sticks in that the halacha is also like Rav Nachman B'Tarsha. So Rav Nachman B'Tarsha was that if I say my payment terms are 6 months and this is the price, and I don't specify that it's cheaper if you pay earlier, that would also be allowed. Okay, so more weiter. You sold the field for $100,000, but he only paid $20,000. He made a down payment. And the vendor said, the seller said, whenever you want, bring the rest of the money, and you could then get your item. Okay, so the halacha is osir, that's going to be osir. And we're going to, Rashi says the reason why it's going to be osir is because we have a problem with who does it belong to until now. That's Rashi, until the guy pays in full. Osir lasses came. The dafka the omer lay, it's only a problem if he says, if I say the property is not sold to you until you bring the money, that's not a problem at all. The problem is it's like a t'nai. When you bring the money, in 6 months, the property is already yours from today. That's a problem. Why is that a problem? Because what's going to happen if during the 6 months, the moicher who hasn't yet released control of the field to the lakeach, because he wasn't paid in full, the moicher is eating the pears of the field, right? So let's say the deal happened in January and the guy ended up paying in March. And from January to March, the moicher who's retaining control of the field is eating the pears of the field. But when the buyer brings the money in March, that was just the fulfillment of a t'nai, and now the purchase really happened in January. The moicher was eating pears from the lekeich's field for the last 2 months. That's going to be a problem of ribbis. But on the other hand, what if the lekeich starts eating the pears right away from January? Well, that won't work either. Maybe he won't bring the money by March, and the sale will be nullified, and the moicher will refund the deposit. Now, this field never belonged to the buyer. He didn't bring the money, so the deal was never sealed. The original mois was like it was the deposit money, which the malva was holding on to up until this point, is like a milva. And the lekeich has been eating pears all along. That's also ribbis. Sorry? Because it's not a rental. It's either a sale or it's a loan. There's no rental here at all. Where's the rental?
So he should say, listen, if you're going to bring it's good, then
so that's why Rashi speaks out. If you said Hare Knuya Lachme Achshav, it's a problem. If you don't say that, it won't be a problem. So Zok to Gemara. He'll value also day.
If you're going to pay, it's Knuya Lachem Achshav. If not, it's going to be a rental.
That's if maybe you say that would be different, but that's not what he said. We're talking about a case where he just said Knuya Lachme Achshav if you bring the money at this date. So what happens if he'll value also day? I lent you $100,000 and you're going to give me your field as a mashkin. And the Malva said, if you pay me back by January 2027, if you don't pay me back by January 1st, 2027, I'm keeping your field. So the halach is, he gets to keep the field. And this is a story that we had a couple of days ago, exactly that case, where he said, you're holding on to my field, and if you don't pay by a certain date, I get to keep your field. So the Gemara is going to analyze these cases. Who is eating the pears by mochar the kibel miktas miyachol pears b'socha? In the first case of our Mishnah, who would be eating the pears during the 3 months between the sale and when he comes up with the money? Who's going to be eating the pears? Who knows the moicher can eat the pears? Rav Adamar mishal shulun es pears. Nobody can eat the pears. You have to give the pears to a third party, and depending on what happens, if the mechira is nigmar, well then the pairs will be given to the Lakeach. And if the Mechir is not Nigmar, the pairs will be given to the Moicher. But V'loi Pliki, it's not a machlokes between Rav Adan and Rav Huna. Had Amar L'chimaisis Kni. If he said, if the deal was, you're not kind of the field me'achshav, you're only going to be kind of the field when you bring the money, so then clearly the Moicher is Eichel Peiros, because until he brings the money, the field belongs to the Moicher. Had Amar L'chimaisis Kni me'achshav. But if the Moicher said, when you pay me in 3 months, the kinyan already happened from today, there nobody can ito pairs because we don't know who they belong to. So therefore, they're given to a shlish. And once the issue is resolved and we know who the actual owner of this property was during this interim period of time, only then can we release those pairs to the owner. Tanya Rab Safra Barivis, Tevei Rab Chia. Rab Safra commented about the Ribis Tevei Rab Chia is as follows. When they were discussing the Allah of Ribis Rab Chia, this is what Rab Safra quoted. Sometimes both the Moicher and the Lakeach, depending how the transaction was structured, would be able to eat pairs. Sometimes nobody would be able to eat pairs. Only Rava Basrei. Let's see if we could give you the scenario that each of these psukim would be active in. When would they both be mutar? In the case of the Omerlei, Kini Kishir Zuzach. You paid me 20% of the field, so 20% of the field is yours, and the rest of the field will become yours when you pay for it. So now, right now, the buyer owns a portion of the field, so he can eat the pairs from that portion, and the moicher owns a portion of the field. The moicher can eat the pairs of that portion. That's pretty simple. Hamish's name Asurim is the Amalei Lechimaises Kanimeachshav, which is the case of our Mishnah. Because it now remains a suffix, does the whole field belong to the moicher, or does the whole field belong to the Lekech up until this point? So therefore, you have to be mashlish to pairs. Nobody's allowed to eat it. Pa'amim moicher mutter Lekech aser. Sometimes the moicher is allowed to eat the pairs, and the Lekech can. That's the Omer lei Lechimaises can eat. When I say you're not going to be paying anything, your down payment got you nothing. You're only going to get anything when you pay in full. So there, clearly, it belonged to the moicher up until the point that it's paid for in full. When he said you automatically become ma'achshav, and the money that you still owe me, the rest of the payment is a VTB. You just owe it to me. So therefore, I'm marking it and to you right now, and now we have a separate loan that you have to pay me. So it's clear that the parish will belong only to the buyer because the sale was sealed immediately. Zokt Gemara, Man Tana Shnei Masurin, who holds, in what case are they both Aser? Amar Funa B'Rei B'Shua, the Loik Rabbi Yehuda. If you hold that they're both Aser, like in our Mishnah, when you have a suffix, for these 3 months, who it belongs to, that would only be Aser if you don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Who is Rabbi Yehuda? We had Rabbi Yehuda yesterday. The Rabbi Yehuda, Ha'amar Tzad Echad Beribis Mutter. If you just said Tzad Echad Beribis is Mutter. So if the Malv is eating the payers, let's say the Moicher is eating the payers up until now. So we're afraid that maybe the deal will go through, and Kum D'Chayis, the Moicher was eating payers from the Lekeich's field, right? But at the time, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if he's going to pay or if he's not going to pay.
It was Ribis.
If the moich, sure, because what's happening is if it belonged, let's think about this. If it belonged to the loiva the whole time, right? If it belonged to the loiva the whole time, and the moicher ate it, so the moicher is paying ribis because he was holding on to this guy's money all this time.
Yeah, so the eating of the parrot.
Right. The reason why it would be also for the
Not because it looks like Ribis, it's because it wasn't his.
no. So look at Rashi says up here. Shem Yoichel. I'm looking at Rashi in the Mishnah. Shem Yoichel Moicher Paris b'soichkach. If the Moicher eats Paris in the interim, l'chshayavi zeh hamois, when the buyer comes up with the money in March, nimta shasad k'diyaloi miyom mecher. Kumdalei that always belonged to the Lekei from January 1st. V'zeh achal Paris, and the Moicher was eating Paris up until now. B'schar hamtanas moisa. because of the fact that the guy had 3 months to pay.
Say it because it wasn't his.
Sorry?
Why can't I actually just say that it wasn't his?
Right. He's eating pears that aren't his. He's eating the pears that are lokech. But what's wrong with that? The problem with that is he's why is that happening? Because the lokech owed him money. So it's ribbis. It's only a problem of gzela if lokech has a problem with it. But even if lokech doesn't have a problem with it, the Torah has a problem with it because it's ribbis. Okay, but this is mamish a case of tzad echad b'ribbis because during the time that he's eating the pears, we don't know if it's going to end up being ribbis. It might very well be that the deal is going to fall through. So therefore, according to Yehuda, we learn tzad echad b'ribbis is mutter. Mishkan loy bayis, mishkan loy soda. He gave him a mashkin of a bayis on behalf of a loan or a field on behalf of a loan. But amaloi, and the malva told the loiva, lichish atirtzal moicham. Even if you decide you want to sell these because you're trying to get a hold of cash to pay you back, even if you decide you want to sell them, loy simkarem ella li b'damim malol. So let's look at this for a second. Someone owes me $100,000. If he's going to give me a field as a mashkin, that field's going to have to be worth more than $100,000, not less. I'm going to a bank's only going to finance up to 70% of the equity. That's the same thing over here. So you have a field that's worth $130,000. I have it as a mashkin for a $100,000 choiv. And I tell him, if you're going to sell, give it to me for $100,000. Don't sell it to somebody else, and maybe you'll be able to get 130. Give it to me for 100. The halacha is osir. That's 100 osir. But the shavyeyan, if I tell you sell it to me first, but I'll pay you the full 130 for it, mutter, that will be mutter. Zokt Gemara, man tana bedamim halalu osir. Who holds that if I ask that it should be sold to me at this discounted rate, the value of my loan, it's going to be Azar. The like Rabbi Yehuda. This doesn't either fit like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Tarachad B'Ribis Mutter. Rabbi Yehuda says Tarachad B'Ribis Mutter. Here, who says you're going to sell it? Maybe you're not going to sell it. So therefore, there's only a possibility that it will lead to ribis. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would have been allowed that he should sell to me for a discounted rate.
What's the second tzad that he's going to keep as a mashkin?
What do you mean by the second tzad?
Tzad echad is that he's going to sell it. The other tzad is
he won't sell it. Yeah, he'll keep it as a mashkin. Yeah, and he'll pay it off. Mocha loy bayis, mocha loy soda. Someone sold a bayis or soda.
Which price is he going to keep it as a mashkin?
I'm sorry.
Which price is he going to keep it as a mashkin for the seller?
As a mashkin, doesn't matter what the price is. It's not being sold. The Omer loy, and he told him, lichish yu li mois. When I have money, hechziram li. So basically, I sold the property. I didn't really want to sell it, but I needed money. But I'm selling to you, Amanas, that if I come up with the money, you got to sell it back to me. That's going to be usher. Why is that going to be usher? Because that we don't look at it like it's a sale. We really look at it like it's a loan. And you're just holding on to my property till I have the money. But if I say, L'cheshiyu loch mois,
What's the ribbon?
I'm getting here. I'm getting a free loan. Let's see. Right. Let's have a look. I'm because I guess the moicher is eating pears. Yeah, because the moicher is eating pears until now. Yeah, it's possible. The moicher is eating the pears until now because it's a sale. Okay, what happens if the loiva didn't say that? What if the buyer said that? The buyer on his own said, don't worry, he's not asking me for anything, but if you have the money, I'll sell it back to you. That's going to be mutter. Man Tana, who is a Tana said this? Rabbi Shua, again like Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda, Homer Tzad Echad Beribis mutter. Okay, because what happens is the guy may never have the money to buy back, so it may never lead to ribbis. But the problem is, what's the difference if this was initiated by the seller or if this was initiated by the buyer? Ma'ishna reisha, ma'ishna seifa. Amarava seifa the amalei midaite. The seifa, he's not making a commitment right now that if you have the money, I'll give it back to you. What he said was, if you come up with the money, we'll discuss it then if I decide I want to sell it back to you. But I'm not committing right now as I'm buying it, then I'm going to sell it back to you. So therefore, it's not a contract built in where there will be ribbis here. It's possible that there won't be any ribbis over here because if I decide that I want to sell it to you later, that'll be a brand new sale. We only look at it like it's a loan if it's built into the sale contract that it could be reversed. But if it's not built into the sale contract, I can decide at that point if I want to sell it, that of course wouldn't be ribbis. Who governed the Someone sold his friend, I sold you $100,000 property without a price, meaning if one of my creditors go and seize it from you, it's too bad for you. Why would someone buy without a price? I don't know. Maybe he really wanted this property and he was willing to take a chance on it. After we did the sale, the seller saw that the buyer is having buyer's remorse. He feels bad because he bought now a dangerous deal, a deal that he might lose out if the lukucha, if someone comes and takes from the lukuchas. Amar Leisha, the seller said, Amaya tzivas. Why are you so upset? Let me tell you, pal. If some of my creditors take it away from you, don't worry, I'll reimburse you in full. I'll give you mi'idis. I'll pay you for any improvements you put into the field, and any fruit that grew on the field that gets seized, I'll give that to you too. So what are you worried about? So the question is, let's say a taka gets seized. Is this seller obliged to do that? Amar Meimer, Dr. Meimer, the seller is not obliged to do it. Petuma mili ba'almahu. He just said it to make the guy feel good, but he never really was machayiv himself at all, because it was not in the contract. Okay, and that's what we're going to discuss tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem. Okay, I think we should have a gewaltige Shabbos. This Shabbos is a heavy parsha.
The Heilige Sons of Suicide.